Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 26 of Over the Top Rope, the flagship podcast of the Win Column Sports Network. And now, it's officially as old as I am. And I am your host, Spencer Love, host of SmackDown Love, as viewed on Periscope by a very small number of you. So I'd like to change that at some point. But joining me in this podcast, episode 26 of OTTR, is my brother of discussion, and most importantly, my friend, Hayden Love. Hayden, welcome back, actually.
You gotta cut saying friend. Like, you really gotta cut that out, man.
Look, I'm sorry, man. I say it every time, and I keep wanting to edit it out in post-production, and I appreciate it, you know? It makes my heart feel a little warmer.
It sticks for it, but it's okay. Yo, Hayden Maniacs, welcome to the 26th episode of Over the Top Rope, and what are we going to be discussing today, Spencer?
Hayden, we are going to be discussing, actually, one of the coolest topics in wrestling today. Obviously, it's not been confirmed yet that All Elite Wrestling is actually a thing. However, recent rumors, I think by the time this podcast is released, by 2 weeks ago, or within the last 2 weeks, it's been announced that there have been trademarks filed for All Elite Wrestling, AEW, other similar names of that vein, as well as AEW All Out, I believe it was, and then AEW Double or Nothing, which obviously, as wrestling fans, speculation will point to the fact that those both sound like promotion names, number one, and event names, number two.
And I'm sorry to cut in, but
Don't worry.
They've released promotional material,
Mm-hmm.
and just even on the All In, the poster and the logo were just all in, with in cut out, but you could still see it, and just without taped over it.
Yeah, and I think that it seems like there's too much smoke here for there not to be at least something minor. I mean, you and I were talking before we started recording here, Hayden, but Cody has sent out a lot of tweets, even just stuff like today he sends out something along the lines, today being Tuesday when we're recording the podcast, something along the lines of, just curious, who are the best unsigned independent male or female talents that you know of? And obviously the guy's a very, very smart guy. He's very in tune with the internet, so could he just be sort of playing up to the marks? Absolutely. But I just think there's too much smoke here, like I said, Hayden, to be fired, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
and a lot of that speculation has surrounded some other people outside of the Elite. Jim Ross and Chris Jericho were linked to it.
Yeah.
But very loosely, and even after these rumors started to flare up again, they came out and they said that there's nothing to them.
Yeah.
But take that with a grain of salt. For
Jericho said he wouldn't be at all in,
100%.
And Jim Ross, you know what? Maybe he's not as subtle about it, and maybe he's not, you know, I don't mean to sound rude here, but just maybe he's not as in tune with sort of the way to play social media or sort of play a crowd or stuff like that. But maybe he's working the crowd. You know, he is a smart wrestling guy. Fuck, he's one of the best.
Oh, he's been in the business his entire life.
Absolutely. So maybe he's working us a bit. Either way, I think that the proponent of this, the prospect of this this promotion for me is exciting enough to do an entire podcast about, Hayden.
You know, I just got super excited when I first heard about this coming back up, and it's always cool hearing about a new promotion.
Absolutely.
Even with the NWA being out there, nobody really talks about them anymore, and now that's sort of bearing some weight on my list. Now that I think about it,
absolutely, man, and it bears a little honorable mention for my list, but that's neither here nor there right now. So, what we're going to be talking about here on the 26th edition of Over the Top Rope here, hosted exclusively on the Win Column Sports Network,
on SoundCloud and Podbean and iTunes
and Google Play,
and you know, maybe Spotify or maybe Tidal.
Yeah, we're on Tidal. Mr. JZ is a good friend of ours. Friends, wherever you choose to listen to this podcast, we thoroughly appreciate it. But if you want to tune into us and find more content from both Hayden and I, tune into wincolumnsports.ca for all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of sports, both worldwide and here from the great province of Alberta, where we are proudly based out of. Here's our quick shout out to our friends from Alberta. Backbreaker Media. We don't really have friends other than that.
Yeah, I was going to say, is that
it? That's literally it. Nice. So, Hayden, what I want to talk about here, we're obviously going to throw out our quick commercial here for our friends at Backbreaker Media and our friends at Tag Struggle, Chris Parrish and Maniac. I just want to get to our rules for this picking here. So what we've decided to do on this week's episode, dear listeners, we are going to basically do our fantasy draft or our dream roster for All Elite Wrestling. Should it turn out to be true, if all of these members are picked, I think someone out there should at least be courteous out there, or courteous enough, to buy us a drink for our correct predictions. But even if these don't turn out to be correct, I think that everyone can agree that these 30 names here that we're going to list are, man, they'd be a hell of a foundation for a wrestling promotion.
This is something that I wake up to every day, and I confront as soon as I step out of bed. So I'm really excited to be doing this podcast with you tonight. Should we just get to the rules?
Yeah, I think before we get to our friends at Tag Struggle, let's talk about the rules here, Hayden, because obviously this isn't Vietnam. There are rules here, to quote the...
rules in Vietnam.
Well, no, to quote The Big Lebowski. Great film. Here are our rules. So, number one, we're only going to be picking 30 roster members today. And by 30 roster members, we should clarify that does mean we're going to be picking 10 men, 10 women, and 10 tag teams. So, obviously, there will be more than 30 quote-unquote roster members, but those are the conditions that we've chosen to go under. They won't really have any bearing, but we've just decided heavyweight championship, a women's championship, a tag team championship, and a secondary championship are all valid from the promotion's inception. Only one from each, or Hayden and I have sort of revised this even since I wrote these down. We're only allowed a total of 2 currently signed WWE superstars because, to me, there would be enough interest in AEW for members of the WWE to cross over.
You could form a new promotion just off of WWE cast-offs.
100%, and not even cast-offs. There's a lot of talented. But there's a lot of talented members of the roster. You know, even if you want to look at it, you could look at a guy like Chad Gable, and tell me that guy wouldn't be a heavyweight championship contender or a huge star in a promotion like this.
He's only like 5'6".
Yeah, but you know what I mean. Hey, there's no way they're not going to do a cruiserweight championship for a smaller promotion.
Yeah, you gotta wonder.
You know, the other rules, we said no more than 3 of each kind of wrestler or type of wrestler, whether that be men, women, or tag teams. They cannot be signed to one promotion. So there's not going to be any point through this where Hayden and I are taking 10 members from Impact or 10 members from the PWA or 10 members from anything along those lines. We want to keep it diverse. Plus, it just makes it more fun. Hayden, just so you know, this is what I'm sort of throwing at you right now, so I want to throw it out here early because I forgot to mention it. We need to hire a general manager.
Yeah, I never thought about that.
Neither did I until I read these rules again. So I think we should close out with this general manager. That gives us some time to think. But we're going to be naming a general manager for the promotion. Excuse me.
I got mine.
Nicely done. Wrestlers can only be included as singles wrestlers or tag team wrestlers. So I know he's not usually a singles wrestler, but our example was we can't say Matt Jackson can be signed as both a singles wrestler or a tag team wrestler. Excuse me. He would either have to be a part of the Young Bucks or a singles wrestler, Matt Jackson, excluding Nick from the promotion unless he wanted to be his own wrestler. On that note, we did state that we're not including the Elite as part of this, just because if something called All Elite Wrestling is going to really be a promotion, I see no way that no members of the Elite are excluded.
But we should specify, so that includes Cody, Bucks themselves,
Yep,
Marty Scurll, Hangman Page,
Kenny Omega.
That one's up for debate, and
I think
and we'll definitely talk about that.
100%, Hayden. We're gonna 100% talk about it. The last thing here, as far as specifically the tag team division goes, we only want genuinely feasible tag teams, so we limited that to tag teams that were active within the last 2 years. So for me, number one, that means that we're not going to see Demolition in here, nor are we going to see a Kota Ibushi, Seth Rollins dream tag team, just so we can both get them in here. I think that would be a very, very unfair way of doing this. But let's be honest here, man. If we were to somehow get a Seth Rollins, Kota Ibushi tag team in All Elite Wrestling, take my money.
I'd love to see a New Jack mass transit tag team.
God.
That'd be awesome.
New Jack returned last night at WrestleCade, and he beat a guy with a vacuum.
Are you kidding me?
No, dude.
I
would not be kidding you on something like this, and I'm not talking like a smaller Dyson vacuum. We're talking like a full-on, like, you have to disassemble things to empty the vacuum cleaner.
I love the guy.
Yep.
Now that just introduces another Wild
Did
card.
we introduce a hardcore division?
Oh.
And actually, you know what? I do. If we're going to mention New Jack,
Possibilities are endless.
well, and if we're going to mention New Jack, we have to shout out friend of the show, Colton Kelly, who, New Jack, if you're ever allowed in Canada again, and I really hope you've somehow gotten this far in episode 26 of Over the Top Rope, Colton Kelly, you and him should face off because that is his dream match. We would really love to see it. And, yeah, just wanted to give a quick shout out there to our friend, Colton Kelly.
Peace, Colton.
Peace, Colton. And the last rule for us, and I know it's going to sound silly, but be realistic. I don't think that there's any way that we would ever see any incarnation of evolution in All Elite Wrestling. I don't think we're ever going to see Vince McMahon show up as the general manager. As much as we would love that, we don't want to make this a fantasy booking site, a fantasy booking podcast, though that is what this is. But let's at least try and be realistic here, Hayden, for the fans.
I'll try.
With that being said, after the break, we are going to get to our fantasy picks. We're going to get started with the tag teams. We're going to break the division out first when we come back on this episode of Over the Top Rope, number 26, after this word from Chris Parrish and Maniac of Tag Struggle.
Peace.
If you like podcasts and you are listening to Backbreaker Media, then you should listen to me, Chris Parrish,
and myself, Maniac,
and the Sounds of Struggle, because we are literally the most entertaining duo you'll ever come across in Western Canadian wrestling, baby.
We talk about things like wrestling,
and other sports we like.
wrestling,
But we won't talk about other sports that we don't like, because it's not that kind of podcast.
like wrestling,
I mean, we like hockey,
and wrestling,
and we like football,
and wrestling,
and we also like to drink beer.
while wrestling.
Well, not while wrestling, but while watching wrestling.
Yes.
Yeah. If you want to get into a conversation with Maniac and Chris Parrish, then you need to tune into the Sounds of Struggle live on Backbreaker Media.
Every Thursday.
It's when we hope to draw, but sometimes Mike Malawany doesn't do his job right.
Or we're too drunk to forget.
Yeah, that happens too.
Yeah.
He can bleep out the swear word because we weren't supposed to do that.
Oh,
But
I'll try not to swear. I can't do it.
yeah, let's face it, the two of us, we're real,
And spectacular.
and we're a little bit of all right.
Yeah.
We're also strugglicious.
That we
That
are.
was kind of the key. Supposed to be strugglicious.
Oh, sorry, I'm drunk.
Yeah. So, if you don't want to listen to us, then no, you're stupid because we're entertaining. And if you want to listen to us, then come listen to us on Backbreaker Media.
Yeah.
Later,
He said.
Later, bitches.
Welcome back to this week's edition of Over the Top Rope, hosted lovingly on the Win Column Sports Network. I am your host, Spencer Love, joined by my brother of discussion, Hayden Love. And we are discussing All Elite Wrestling, or I guess I should say the potential All Elite Wrestling. As we stated in the introduction to this, All Elite Wrestling has recently been trademarked.
The hypothetical.
The hypothetical, the conceivable
Yes.
All Elite Wrestling. And we're fantasy booking, I guess, our rosters here. So we decided we're going to get started on the tag teams here. Admittedly, we did decide that because we are least familiar really with tag team wrestling on the independent scene. I mean, all of us, or both of us, all of us, were able to get 10 tag teams for our division, but I'll be quite honest with you, it wasn't easy, mostly for me because there aren't a ton of big name independent tag teams out there.
Not anymore.
And even a few that are out there, I just didn't want to put on this roster because I'm not a huge fan. So, Hayden, I think you and I, the way we should approach this is I'll take a team, and then you take a team, and if we agree on the teams, we will just do so, discuss them for a bit, and if we disagree, well, we'll go from there, because I'm sure there's going to be some disagreement.
You know, I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah, you take the first one.
First team that sprang to mind, and just with all the discussions flying around, were that two individuals from WWE had already roughly or loosely signed to contracts with AEW, and the two that I can think of were Gallows and Anderson.
Okay, perfect. I've got the club on my list as well, and I don't disagree that they would be absolutely massive additions. I guess to any independent promotion, should they leave WWE or were their contracts to run out and they were to go elsewhere, but man, they would be tailor-made for this sort of promotion.
At this point, I'm not going to say that they're the most talented tag team in WWE. They're fantastic. I mean, with Anderson in particular, but they could be a pillar. You could build a tag division around the two guys.
Absolutely, and to me, they've been shockingly underutilized. I think, to be honest with you, they, like you said, if they're the two guys you think have already tentatively agreed to contracts, then great. And to me, they do fall right in line with the Be Realistic. Obviously, there isn't the affiliation with the Bullet Club anymore, but maybe they do build a feud or something like that around it should Gallows and Anderson come to AEW.
It's ready made.
I completely agree. Hayden, for me, there were two members. To be honest with you, there were three, but we weren't allowed to include factions as full factions for the same reason that, we couldn't include people as tag team and singles wrestlers. The members of the Addiction, also current members of SCU, and people I love, Christopher Daniels and Frankie Kazarian. I think much like the club, those are people that you can, even at their age, and man, I mean, 46 years old in real life is not that old, but the fact that Christopher Daniels is not only wrestling at that age, but wrestling at the high level he is right now is incredible. And Frankie Kazarian, man, PWA just brought him in. I was lucky enough to go and check him out, and the guy's absolutely incredible as well. And I saw him at All In. It was my first time getting to see Kazarian live, and he was just awesome. So the two of them in a tag team, it really breaks my heart not to have Scorpio Sky in there, to be quite honest with you. Because same sort of thing as Kazarian. It was my first time seeing him live, and I was thoroughly impressed. But
hey, you can always throw Sky on your men's roster, Spencer.
Well, we're going to get to that in a bit. But as of right now, I have SCU/The Addiction as my first tag team.
I gotta agree. I mean, these guys are legends on the independence team. I mean, stalwarts of the independent scene.
Yep.
All there at the first TNA pay-per-view, as far as I can remember. At least Daniels was. I'm not sure about Kazarian.
Well, and
Same
for
thing
that
with
one,
Ring of Honor.
here's
First Ring of
another
Honor
plug. You know what? You want to talk
pay-per-view
about the first
show.
TNA pay-per-view? Hayden, if you want, every Monday on Backbreaker Media, our friend Andre does Total Nonstop Anarchy, where he is literally going through, and man, I just want to apologize to you. It is going to be painful at points. He's going through and watching every TNA from the point that it was at its inception. Talking is hard.
Yeah.
At its inception was only pay-per-views. He's been watching every single one of them. And the podcast is absolutely fantastic, so catch it Mondays on Backbreaker Media. There's another cheap plug. And now it's your turn, Hayden. Pick a team.
Cool. And, I mean, we didn't even mean for that plug to happen. You didn't even tell me about that.
Nope.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of fun, though.
Dude, it's really good. As someone who never watched really the early TNA days, and I'm talking like first TNA days,
yeah,
really, really well done podcast.
It had a lot of promise for quite a while.
Yep.
It wasn't even a competitor. It was just an alternative that could have become a competitor.
Completely agree.
That's another. Well, that's not even worth it.
That's a discussion, honestly. I think that if we ever are good to make a guest appearance on that podcast, that's a discussion for that podcast.
We'll see what happens.
Either way.
I don't know. It's been discussed.
All you, buddy.
But with TNA tag teams in mind, and I guess just independent tag teams in mind, my second pick were the Motor City Machine Guns.
Completely agree.
Yeah, Alex Shelley, Chris Sabin, and our rules roughly spread to 2 years of inactivity. So if they hadn't been active beyond 2 years ago,
yep,
then they were disqualified from contention. And they haven't been wrestling for the past year. I know that, maybe a year and a half. But either way, these guys, once again, not to misuse the term or the phrase, these guys could be pillars of the tag division. And I'm still bummed out that they never made it to NXT or WWE in any capacity, because they really pioneered the tag team style that the Bucks and everybody of that caliber are wrestling nowadays. They were nuts. They were insane.
I completely agree, man. Like, the best way to put it for me is they were a team that was sort of 5 years too early. The stuff that they did was absolutely insane. And I completely agree. I was very, very happy because I did have to fact check on this one, even just again now. But, yep, they were active within the last 2 years, so we're good to go on that one. And hooray for us. We've got the Motor City Machine Guns as our third tag team in the division. Man, I'm happy that we've agreed on all of these ones so far.
I'm sure that one of them retired, if not both of them. I think Shelley retired because of concussions.
Really?
I think so.
I didn't know that, and that would be...
I think. Let me double check.
Man, that wouldn't be fun. Either way, while you double check, while you fact check on this one, I'm going to throw another name out here that I am sure all of my friends from All In, and again, quick shout out. I'm full of quick shout outs today, man, but this is just such a good opportunity for them. To Sam, Kate, and Casey, this one is for you guys. Best friends, Chuck Taylor, Beretta. Unbelievably good.
Man, I had Beretta, but in another tag team.
Really?
Yeah, Roppongi Vice.
I've never really watched a ton of their stuff. And again, that is to my detriment. I've always been really, really familiar with Chuck Taylor. But I didn't
You're a
start...
big Chuck Taylor fan.
Big Chuck Taylor fan.
Big Chuck Taylor fan.
Anyone who goes out of their way to... This is going to sound terrible. Anyone who goes out of their way to, like, scare children in character, I love it. And when he was a heel on his, like, super indie days, like gymnasium days, where he would just walk around and take pride in scaring children in a crowd, I absolutely loved it. So, thanks to Sam, Kate, and Casey, I'm really getting familiar with the best friends. They're absolutely fantastic because they're that perfect mix of a team that entertains you in a comedy style, because I'm using it that way because they're not a comedy tag team. They're a team that can entertain you with sort of that comedy style, but they're both excellent wrestlers.
Excuse me.
Ahem.
Yeah, no, I have to agree. They're the perfect blend of scary and funny. And that
Frightening,
makes them-
frightening and funny.
Well, I'd say scary, Spencer.
Okay,
But
excuse me.
yeah, but either way, they're a perfect blend, and that makes them really intriguing. Not to mention their talent to boot.
Yep.
That's for sure. I mean, Beretta was signed to WWE at like 20 years old, 21 years old.
Yeah.
Still a young cat, still 28, and he's got a bright star. I think he's got a shining future. That's for sure.
That was perfectly put. I like the way you put things. Nicely done.
And as for Chuck Taylor, and Christ, his innumerable nicknames or other wrestling names, can't even begin to name them.
Dude, he's
He has
excellent.
a full list. He's got like 50 or 60.
I
like the
don't
guy.
use the word lightly, to be honest with you, but I think that guy at some point, if he doesn't sign with WWE, he was going to be a guy that will go down as like one of the most entertaining guys on the independent scene.
Even
to
if
be
it's just
honestly
in the same caliber as Cassius Ohno, just comes in and hangs out in NXT for a bit.
Yep.
Then
Because
maybe-
why not?
Yeah, maybe becomes a trainer.
Who knows?
Who knows? I don't.
We certainly don't, Hayden. We are not mind readers. We are podcasters.
Yeah, that's
and
for
what
sure.
you are is picking next.
So that puts
Who's
us
your next
at,
tag team?
That puts us at 4. Yeah.
That puts us as 4, and we agree on all 4 so far.
Yeah.
No, that's a lie. We semi-agree on best friends because you said you had actually.
Well, I had Roppongi Vice, but
Yep.
excuse me.
That's okay.
Excuse me again. Pardon me. But I think you've won me over to the best friends argument, so you can say that we're stuck with 4. And same thing
Okay.
as you is well, never mind.
Well,
That's a
no, and you know
discussion
what?
for
I
another
just
day.
will clear this one up because we did add this one, but I forgot to add it. I did the rules at work today, and then I forgot to add when you and I were discussing. So we did say we are allowed one sort of restack or one mulligan per category because, man, there's a lot of talented teams out there. There's a lot of talented female wrestlers out there. There's a lot of talented males out
Millions
there, right?
of them, yeah.
So we are allowed to revise one pick per round. Hey, you're taking that one as your revision?
Yeah, sure. I'll take that as my revision.
Cool.
Whatever.
Sounds good, man.
I don't care. Whatever.
You're up next.
But instead of Roppongi Vice, I'll take another NJPW tag team. Minoru Suzuki and Zack Sabre Jr.
Oh,
yeah,
man.
Suzuki Gun.
And how I didn't have them on here. I'm, to be honest with you, I'm a little upset. That being said, I think I am going to use them. I am going to use Suzuki Gun just early as my replacement for the Briscoes. Because I don't like to curse here on the podcast, but F the Briscoes.
Come on, man.
I don't like the Briscoes.
And Briscoes don't like you, but they're still a great tag team.
That's fine. I'm not a great tag team.
That puts us at a disagreement on one of my teams, Spencer.
There's we can agree to disagree on this one, but yeah, I'm going to agree with you on Suzuki Gun and Hayden. Just elaborate on the pick a little bit because unfortunately there probably are some people who I guess like myself, if they're not one of the first 10s to sort of come to mind, need to be familiarized.
They've only just recently united. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr. joined back in, I think, October of last year, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're bordering on a year at this point. But these two guys have come in and they have fucked up the game. And I know that you don't like cursing.
Hey,
but,
fine by me. We've got the explicit on the iTunes
Yeah,
where you
absolutely.
can listen to us for this reason.
And it's appropriate in this case. I mean, even if you've just seen Zack Sabre Jr. in the Mae Young Classic, you know that he's just an extremely skilled and I mean he focuses on submissions.
Mm-hmm.
And Suzuki is sort of the same way, except with more of an MMA focus. So their styles blend extremely well. And even though they're not a full-time tag team, whenever they do tag together, it's magic. And if you're looking for just a well-blended and a well-stacked tag team division, you need to throw these guys in here. Even if it's just only for crossover events.
Dude, to be
NJPW
quite
and
honest with you,
AEW.
Minoru Suzuki can come to WWE and challenge Braun Strowman or Brock Lesnar right off the bat. And I don't care off the fact that he's like, what, 46, 48
He's
by
like
this
50,
point?
He's like 53, man.
Yeah,
He's
there
an
we
old-
go.
He's an old man.
And I would still take Suzuki every single time. That
I
man might be the
wouldn't.
most...
That's for sure. There's another disagreement.
Dude, he's frightening.
He
He's
is,
a
but
horrifically frightening man.
I could not see him taking on the Braun Strowman. That's for sure.
Yeah, I could. He's quick. He's
Yeah.
quick for
Okay, to
53.
each their own.
Fair enough. All right. Well, Suzuki Gun we agree with. Then
Yeah.
who am I going to give next? Oh, obviously, Hayden, we have to go with former Impact Tag Team Champions, Eli Drake, Scott Steiner.
I
The
don't even
greatest
know,
tag team of all
don't
time.
even know if they're a tag team anymore, to be perfectly honest.
Don't think so. I
It
literally
was
think
like
they
a
set
2-month
themselves up.
stretch,
Yeah. It was not a long stretch,
Nope. But it was a stretch regardless.
and it gets Scott Steiner in AEW in a conceivable notion.
Yeah, but
His ego would not let him not be a part of this.
I don't think it's feasible, to be perfectly honest.
Really?
Yeah, if you want to talk about another dream matchup, I couldn't see this happen.
Eli Drake and Scott Steiner?
Oh, it's happened, but I can't see it happening again. I don't even know if Scott Steiner's still wrestling for Impact.
See, that's
This
what
point.
that's what we've said for years.
Yeah, but he keeps coming back. It's like scabies.
Oh, exactly like scabies. You can't really get rid of it.
Scott's scabies.
Scott Scabies Steiner.
Triple S.
Ugh. And that gives you a 33 and a third chance of getting scabies again.
Christ, I wouldn't bet on those odds.
We should stop picking on Scott Steiner. He could kick our ass.
Well, honestly, I wouldn't even say a tragedy because he did some awesome stuff later on in his career. But one of the most talented athletes in wrestling history, and then he just goes and absolutely destroys that with steroids.
He was a guy who had
Kinda
two
hilarious.
markedly different careers. He had two very successful careers, and I can definitely tell you which one I preferred.
He had two remarkable careers, that's for sure.
Both for good and for bad. Hayden, you are up. Give me your seventh tag team.
I can't believe that you chose Eli Drake and Scott Steiner.
I did.
You bastard, you're just reaching.
Dude, get Steiner on the roster.
You know what?
That guy is a guy who needs to be carried by someone else by this point.
Two guys that are bound to be snapped up within the next year. Well, and actually, no, within the next 2 years. I'm not sure when their TV deals with Lucha Underground expire. But the Lucha Bros.
Done.
Yeah, the ripoff of the Lucha House Party.
Yeah, 100%.
Or as we call them around here, the shittier Lucha House Party.
Yeah, you and I call them. That's exactly what we call them.
Yeah, absolutely. Pentagon Jr. and Ray Phoenix.
Yeah, they're no Kalisto.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, Kalisto's kind of a beast, to be honest.
Dude, they're all great wrestlers, to be quite honest with you, but like...
Maybe not Lindsay Dorado. Maybe
Yeah,
not
he's
him.
fine. You're right.
Mediocre.
There we go. He's fine.
Grand Metalik is probably the best out of all of them, to be honest.
I wouldn't disagree with you, and I would say that if you were to even feasibly trade positions, say Pentagon and Ray Phoenix were in WWE and Kalisto and Grand Metalik were on the independent scene still, we may be having a different conversation because you don't really know. I mean, everybody claims to know. You don't really know how much of a difference there is in a WWE style versus an independent style.
And
obviously it is more aggressive, but
as far as I know, Metali can't go back to the Mexican wrestling scene.
Yeah.
Because he slept with 3 different promoters' wives.
which would give him a very difficult time of going back in any safe notion.
The thing is nobody knows who it is because he was wearing his mask. So they know exactly who it is, but they don't know who he is.
La Luchadora could come back.
But it's a damn shame because like he genuinely is one of the best wrestlers in the world.
I don't disagree, but you can also conceivably say the same about Ray Phoenix and Pentagon Jr.
That's true.
Like,
Pentagon-
they are
Pentagon in particular.
unbelievable, man.
Yep.
And I don't disagree there at all. Pentagon, I was lucky enough again at All In, like, I saw him live for the first time.
Yeah.
And
Super excited.
you can put that guy in a category with a guy like Kenny Omega.
One of the best luchadors in the world.
Absolutely, man. So I would completely agree there with the Lucha Bros for you. My next pick on this one, Hayden, would have to be Evil and Sonata.
Lay that pick out for me.
To me, and they are probably the team I'm most getting familiar with, just due to the fact that I wasn't even all that into them until Evil's feud here with Chris Jericho. But they add a different element to the tag team division. I think it does get not boring because everybody enjoys a great wrestling match, but I do think it gets repetitive if you don't have some sort of characters that have maybe not a supernatural gimmick to them, but I think there does have to be something outside of just a wrestler coming in and saying, well, I'm the best and I want this championship. Yes. You know what I mean? That might not be the best way to put it, but
yes,
I think that Evil and Sonata, just given their gimmicks, are they give it a different vibe. They give it, when you see a match between them, it would be different than a match between, say, The Addiction and Pentagon and Phoenix. You know, those are just guys who are going out to be the best wrestlers. Whereas Evil and Sonata are, I'm not saying they're this level yet, or even going to get to this level, but it's very much like an Undertaker vibe or a Rosemary vibe or a more supernatural vibe, and I think you do need something like that in the division.
like a Kane.
Yeah. Oh, dude, you need Kane
like
everywhere. Kane would have been a WWE pick for me if he wasn't just so busy being mayor.
Kane's going to be a 2-time Hall of Fame.
The Brothers of Destruction.
Yes. Love Kane. But yeah, I'll be completely honest. I'm completely unfamiliar with them. But I mean, Evil has a bit of a reputation of his own.
Yep.
Because, I mean, he's going up against the Chris Jericho right now.
The Chris Jericho.
Yeah. You just got to, I think he already did go up against Chris Jericho, and Jericho beat him.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But it was still, dude, going against Chris Jericho is the equivalent of going against someone like Brock Lesnar. You're elevated a little bit because of it at this point.
Yes.
Hayden, it's up to you. We've got 8 picks. I think we've got 2 left. I know I'm going to leave 1 for last, so it's up to you.
I'll go back to TNA, the gold mine that was TNA Tag Team Wrestling, which you know, unironically and non-jokingly, was actually pretty excellent for a time being. More or less outweighed WWE's for a bit, but the Wolves, Davey Richards and Eddie Edwards, and as far as I know, Richards has retired for the time being to finish up his paramedic training or whatever it is. Forget, like, not to disrespect paramedics, but I just don't know what to call it. So he's not around, but they have been active within the last two years. So regardless of it being a stretch, these guys were stalwarts of TNA and Ring of Honor, especially during the crossover days. 5-time Ring of Honor champions, 2-time TNA Tag Team champions, and Eddie Edwards was a 1-time, if not 2-time, TNA heavyweight champion.
Yeah.
I don't know if Richards was as well, but I know that one of them was a Ring of Honor champion as well. That could have been Edwards. So 2 absolutely phenomenal wrestlers. I'm not sure if you're familiar with them or not, but
very, very briefly, in the sense that I know they're champions and I know they're decorated champions. I'm not all that familiar with their work or anything. I'm familiar with them in the way that you're familiar with Evil and Sonata.
Sort of a similar case to the Motor City Machine Guns, though, in that they weren't revolutionary. I think that would be a stretch, but they were before their time. And they did have a couple WWE tryouts, but I think just based on their size, they were turned down. But just 2 absolutely phenomenal wrestlers, both in a tag team and on their own. And I'd love to see them come back again.
Yeah.
And I think Richards is just hanging the boots up temporarily. But I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe they'll fit him in the NXT tag division one day.
Fair enough, man. Well, we have 2 teams left. At least I've got 2 teams left on my list.
It's your pick anyhow.
Yep, that is fair. I have out of Winnipeg, the London Dynasty, members of the Gentlemen's Club, Leo and David London. And man, they're good. I don't know how familiar you are with Winnipeg's independent scene, but it's just terrific. It's very, very
Not familiar with them
comparable.
at all.
Well, and to me, it's very, very comparable to Alberta in the sense that it doesn't get sort of the shine that it should. But they've done just an absolutely terrific job. I mean, there's a reason that so many wrestling legends have come out of there. I mean, you talk about Roddy Piper, you talk about Chris Jericho. I mean, Callis was a wrestler further back than I'm familiar with, but he's an excellent, excellent promoter, and just the talent that's come out of there. And I really do think that you're going to start to see, much like you're starting to see the kids who grew up with the Attitude Era starting to become really, really popular WWE wrestlers. You're going to start to see these kids who grew up as fans of Chris Jericho and Don Callis and that sort of stuff coming into WWE now. I think that's why Kenny Omega is starting to get as good as he is. It is over the last 2 years. I mean, he's been a terrific wrestler longer than that, but over the last 2 years has really been as long as, I would say 80% of wrestling fans have really paid attention to the guy.
I mean, he won the Battle of Los Angeles back in like 2012, like 2011.
That's fair. You know,
So, yeah,
and
for quite
I
a
don't
while.
disagree there, but
But yeah, he's really become a 6-star wrestler in the past 3 years. give
Yeah.
or take. And yeah, I don't know shit about these guys. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
But I didn't know that we were just building up to 10 together. So I'm just gonna mention my honorary pick, which is Team Hall of Fame, Chris Steele and Duke Durango. The
you're
gods.
taking them, man. It is,
The boys.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
the
am.
gods.
I love them.
Yeah.
Ain't much else to say about it, Duke.
God, I tip my hat to Duke Durango. I wish I could have seen his last match. I shed a couple tears. I'll be honest. But I'd love to see the God Chris Steele go down there and tear it up with the likes of maybe. Well, actually, I'll bite my tongue. We shouldn't be talking about our men and women's picks because they're coming up right after this upcoming break.
Nope, fair enough. And you know what? I'm going to go back to Alberta for my tag team pick. It was really, really difficult. Again, another rule that we came up with that I didn't have on the rules there. But we also limited our Alberta talent. It is very, very easy to go through and name excellent talent in Alberta. Men's, women's, tag team divisions, all of them. It's easy to even go through and give 4 or 5 for each division, at least for myself.
God, if not like 10.
Right?
Yeah, you
Like,
build a division out of a division.
Yep.
Think about that.
so we basically went through and we said same sort of thing, 1 per division. And for this one, I gave him a shout out actually earlier on the show, and that was unintentionally related to this, but I'm going with the Millennial Rebels. I'm putting Colton Kelly and Kenneth Anthony in there.
That's an interesting choice, but it's not a surprising choice. I'll be
No,
honest.
you know what? I think that those are 2 guys that you can really see. Maybe they're not built as the strongest tag team off the bat, and admittedly that would be because there's a lot of tag teams that are more established worldwide than they are, but I think that they're guys that are going to really, really develop, especially in Colton Kelly's case. I mean, selfishly, I'm a mark for the guy. I'll never tell the guy that in person, but I think that they're guys that you could set as people who were there for, if they wouldn't go to WWE conceivably or move on, you could build a future division around,
Yeah, that's true.
You can really start to set yourself up with those sorts of guys. And, I'll get into the reasoning. Obviously, there's, I'm sure, questions as to why I haven't picked other tag teams. I'm going to get into those reasons later.
They're your decision, nobody else's.
100%. But Hayden, when we come back on this week's edition of OTTR, episode 26 of OTTR, we are going to chat about the women's division, I believe. I'm very, very excited to chat about that. There's a lot of female talent out there in the world. So when we come back from this break, after this word from our friends at Power Slam TV, we're going to be chatting about our potential women's division for All Elite Wrestling. And guys, if you ever disagree with any of our picks, or if you just want to chat, Get a hold of us on pretty well any form of social media at Win Column Sports. The only place you won't find us at that exact name is on Twitter at WC Sports CA is where you can find us. But other than that, man, we're pretty well everywhere. So if you want to find us and chat about tonight's AEW picks on Over the Top Rope, get a hold of us on the Win Column Sports Network.
Please.
Are you tired of the same old pro wrestling? Then check out the amazing action on Powerslam.tv, the biggest indie pro wrestling channel in the world. Get over 3,000 hours of the best pro wrestling events from over.
Welcome back to OTTR on Win Column Sports. We are your hosts, Spencer Love and Hayden Love, the brothers of discussion, and we're talking about AEW, the potential promotion brought to you by the Elite. By the Elite, we are talking about Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, subject to debate, Kenny Omega, just purely for these purposes. We know you're part of the Elite. Marty Scurll and Adam Hangman Page.
Did you mention the Young Bucks?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Now, Hayden, as we get into the women's division, here's someone that I did want to talk about because I do have 10 picks if she is not included. Are we including Brandy Rhodes as part of the Elite?
By extension. Like, she's Cody's manager in most cases.
Okay, perfect.
But she's
Then,
not a member of the Elite. No.
well, then, for these purposes, as Brandy Rhodes is currently wrestling, let's consider her a part of the Elite. She will be a part of this promotion, and we are exempting her as a selection as a female wrestler.
Okie doke.
Cool. You started the last one, so I'm going to get started on this one, Hayden. I'm going to get started with Tennille Dashwood.
It's a great choice.
I think that it's pretty easy to at least add some name value bringing her, but she brings a lot of experience to the division, and she brings a lot of talent to it. I think that through her WWE run, a lot of people knew that she was talented, but she never really got to exhibit it.
Yeah, she's a great blend of beauty and power, some would say. But I'm not sure as to whether or not she's still currently wrestling because of her skin condition. Like, I know that she's a great pick. She's wrestled in the past 2 years, even recently, but I don't know what's up with that.
Now, I believe, and I don't want to get into it too much because I know she's spoken about it, but I'm not all that familiar with it, so I don't want to say sort of anything out of line here. But I believe the way it's being treated right now is more of an injury situation than a career-threatening situation. Now, if that's incorrect, I guess not even if it's incorrect. Either way, all of our best to Tennille Dashwood. We really hope you come back. There's a reason that you're the first one brought up when we're talking about building a dream female division. Is damn, you're good. So,
Oh, she's fantastic.
absolutely.
Like she can hang with the 4 horsewomen.
I don't disagree at all, man. There's a reason that, like, a lot of women that I started to notice, at least in NXT, because she did have a long tenure there. You started to notice during their matches with Emma, to be honest with you. She was in the match for the first NXT Women's Championship.
And as far as I can remember, she was the first NXT Women's call-up, even before Paige. She came up and she had that whole dance tag team with Santino Marella.
You might
And
not
that
be
failed.
wrong there.
Yeah. And that failed, so she got sent back down, had the arrival match, and stuck around till like 2016.
Yeah, because wasn't she was a very different character. It was a lot like Alexa
was-
Bliss's situation. She was very, very bubbly and light and in a very babyface role, and then sort of made a bit of a snap change. Yeah.
Started wearing the sunglasses and the shoulder pads.
Man, did it work well.
Oh,
I really would have been interested to see how her relationship with Dana Brooke would have played out on the main roster.
And that's still such a kick in the balls that they changed her from Evil Emma to Emelina, and then just brought her back pretty much, without any direction.
Yeah.
And then released her.
I'll be quite honest with you, man. I could do an entire podcast on why Emma is like a great missed opportunity. But we'll
She's still young.
Yep. But we'll talk about that on a different day. As of now, she is one of my first picks, or at the very least, the first person that came to mind for a women's division on the independent scene. Hayden, your thoughts?
She was number 7 on my list.
Really?
Well, and just because I thought of other people before her, not to disparage her, but she's a great pick regardless.
Fair enough, man. Then
I
who would be your first pick, or who was the first person that came to mind for you?
Jazzy Gabert or Gabert.
Really?
Yeah.
That's completely fair.
I just can't remember how to pronounce your last name. I haven't watched the NYC in a while.
Yeah, fair enough, but that's an excellent choice.
Gabbard.
Not someone on my list. Again, not to take anything away from her, but like, yeah, that's an excellent pick, man.
Still unsigned, riding a huge wave of momentum coming off the NYC. But then she had to get neck surgery, which she actually recovered from.
Yeah.
Which is a great boon to her. But as of right now, still unsigned by WWE.
Yeah.
So
And she adds a very different element to a women's division.
well, and if you'd like to talk about a woman powerhouse, she fits the bill.
100%.
Because not only is she large, not only is she powerful, like she's got an insane amount of wrestling ability to boot.
I agree, Hayden.
She's a great wrestler.
Now,
Somebody to build a division around.
you know what? And the reason that takes me nicely to my next pick, because the person that I picked next or came second to mind as far as women's wrestlers that I would like to conceivably see in this promotion is another woman that's a powerhouse, thick mama pump, Jordan Grace.
Woman not on my list, but
I think that she is, man, you even want to talk even 5 years down the road, for me, she is a future WWE Women's Champion. Like, she is 23, I believe, if not younger. And she is number one, this talented, and number two, this unique. I really, really enjoyed her. I hate to keep going back to All In, but like, it was my first experience, admittedly, with a lot of independent talent live. And I feel like a live experience changes a lot about what you think about a wrestler.
it's the most powerful experience you can have.
Absolutely. And her showing in the Battle Royal at All In, she was the person who I probably left that entire show, to be honest with you, most impressed with.
Did you see anything of hers beforehand?
I'd watched bits and pieces. She's had a lot of very, very good matches on the independent scene. I just think that she is someone, again, much like Jazzy Gabbert, like, very, very unique. And the only reason I would, well, not even the only reason. I don't mean to undersell here on Grace. I just mean to sound complimentary to Jazzy here. Is just, she is someone that you can build a division around for like umpteen years. Like, she is going to be a star for the next, not year, not couple years. Like, she is someone that to me is destined to be a future star, whether it be on the independent scene or in WWE.
She's got youth. She's got talent. I mean, I haven't seen anything of hers, to be perfectly honest, which is why she wasn't on my list.
Yeah.
But hell, I'll take you at face value for it. No, can't disagree with it.
Fair enough, man. I would highly recommend checking her out. But before I do that, or before you do that, tell me your pick. Number two.
Rosemary, TNA.
Excellent selection, and someone on my list as well.
Mm-hmm. Even if she weren't signed to full time, and again, sort of the same thing as some other stars on our tag team list. Even if it was just based on crossover events between Impact and AEW, she'd be a great pick. She's got the draw. She's one of the biggest names, if not just single-handedly the biggest name on the independent scene right now as far as women's talent goes.
Yeah.
But she backs it up. Great
Completely
wrestler.
agree, man.
Yeah.
I think, much like I said about Evil and Sonata, you know, supernatural gimmicks are always very different. So it's tough to really make a comparison. But she's someone that is just so unique. I mean, her entire last year for me was terrific, even up until she got taken off of TV. And man, she is going to come back absolutely huge.
But even just the gimmick aside, like, she's got some killer wrestling ability.
100%.
She had great matches with Chelsea Green back a couple months ago. Pardon me. And her being taken off TV, is that still a result of her being, knocked the hell out by that Mexican wrestler, whoever it was?
Yep.
Princess something.
Yeah.
Shirt. No, not Princess Shirt.
Man, Impact's women's division is just fantastic.
It's firing on all cylinders, as someone
And
said.
still is. Despite the fact that it's switched to a later TV time, still absolutely terrific. And again, not to take away from anyone in the male division or the men's division, but like, the women's division is the reason that I watch Impact. I'll be quite honest with you.
But with that in mind, moving on to your next pick, I'm just gonna, take a stab that maybe Tessa Blanchard. Is on
Dude,
your
you've
list.
got me pegged. Tessa Blanchard. The only reason I didn't include her earlier is because she's someone that I could talk about for hours, man. Tessa, if you ever are listening 49 minutes into an over the top rope, check your messages. I really would love to interview you one day.
Please.
Seriously. She is. You know what? I say this without question, to be quite honest with you. She's the most talented female outside of WWE right now.
Yeah, I would say it's a debatable statement, but it's hard to debate that.
I don't think it is. I think that you could probably bring in major, like, even for me when I was writing this list, I thought, maybe we're bringing Miko Satomura, but no, not a realistic. But
Well, Mayu Iwatani,
yep.
maybe her. Well, if not her, she's definitely in the conversation.
And I'm even certain that there's going to be people out there that I haven't heard of that people will be talking about say that they're better than Tessa.
Yeah.
I respect your opinion, and I will have to do some research on that one. But to me, right now, there is no one as good as Tessa Blanchard right now. Whether it be someone with the character awareness that she's got, someone with the wrestling ability that she's got, she is just. It's hard to say anything other than the future of women's wrestling. She's 23, man.
And
That's insane.
Well,
to
I
me.
was going to say in the same vein as Jordan Grace, if you'd
Yeah.
like to talk about somebody that's got all the potential and all the time in the world, look no further than her.
That is a feud I am very, very excited for in Impact.
We'll see
And
what happens.
man, I think Jordan is the only person I could conceivably see right now, and that's not taking anything away, but like Sue Young, Allie, any of them, like they're not ready for Tessa. They're really not. Jordan Grace could be the person to finally take down Tessa Blanchard, but that's another discussion for another day. Hayden, I would love to keep talking about Tessa, but it is your call. Who's your pick?
I mentioned her not 2 minutes ago, but
Yep.
Mayu Iwatani.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not familiar with her a ton outside of her appearances in the Mae Young Classic this year.
She wasn't in the Mae Young this year.
Wasn't she?
No.
Who am I thinking of?
And maybe Io Shirai.
No, there were a few. You're right. She was
Michael
actually. You know
Satomura.
what? You know why I'm thinking of her is because we talked about her on the last pod we did together when we were talking about the PWI 100.
Yeah, true. But
So,
but
there we go. Sorry about that.
Hey, don't apologize. Nothing to apologize for. But in the same vein as Asuka, Kairi Sane, Io Shirai, roots in Stardom, and has wrestled almost exclusively for Stardom, to my knowledge. I mean, she's just recently started wrestling for Ring of Honor. I think she only just wrestled in the Ring of Honor Women of Honor tournament to crown the champion. But phenomenally talented, absolutely incredible young lady, and she's sort of been carrying the company since the departure of Io Shirai and her pal Kairi Sane. But once again, the rumor mill's been aflutter with the idea that she may be heading to NXT, but I'd really love to see her in AEW or really any continental promotion.
Yeah.
Because she's really a world-class talent, man.
Fair enough, man. And there's not really much I can say. Unfortunately, like, I'm not all that familiar with her. There are only so many hours in a day that you can watch wrestling. If anybody's got any suggestions for matches to watch, please let me know. I would really appreciate them. But hey, that would probably be the biggest reason that she's not on my list. Someone who is on my list, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
Don't know who that is.
Really?
Is she the girl that came out with Joey Janela?
No, that's Penelope Ford, who unfortunately not on my list. Did get my honorable mention though.
So tell me a bit.
No, but
about
she
Britt
was
Baker.
part of the Fatal 4-Way at All In. Again, like a lot of these women on this list, she's wrestled over a lot of promotions, Shimmer, Shine, that sort of stuff. Like I don't have any other way to put it. She doesn't really have a home promotion, Kate. She's actually Adam Cole's girlfriend, which was really, really cool. One of the things I remember from All In was she came out to his old theme from the independent scene.
Oh, that's tight.
Yeah, very, very cool. And genuinely a dentist. Like, that is her job outside of wrestling. Is she, like I say, Dr. Britt Baker, DMD, because she's a doctor of dentistry.
Beauty and brains.
Absolutely.
Some would say.
And incredibly talented. She took the pin at All In, but, like, man, is she good. And again, if I remember correctly, the coolest part about all of these female talents so far is that they're all very young.
Yeah.
Like, it's been so cool. I brought it up when we're talking about the tag teams. I'll bring it up about the women. These are the first real generation of women that were brought up on Trish and Lita and sort of that late Attitude Era, early Ruthless Aggression female wrestlers. Even now, like, I'll spoil it a bit here for those who listen to OTTR. One of the names I've got on this list we've spoken to prior to this. And, like, we're starting to even see people who've been inspired by, like, Sasha and Bayley. Right?
Yeah,
like,
it's a young woman's game.
100%.
That's for sure.
So, another young wrestler, another wrestler I'd highly recommend getting familiar with. Dr. Britt Baker, you're my next pick. You just made the list.
I was watching the Survivor Series 2016 face-off on Raw.
Yeah.
And Chris Jericho, Kevin Owens, up against AJ Styles. And I forgot completely about the list, but I forgot how over it was.
He was talking about
as well.
Ellsworth too, remember?
Yeah.
What's that thing?
Yeah, that's true, but we shouldn't really talk about Ellsworth at this point in time.
No. Ellsworth has been blackballed from this show at this point.
Well, and blue balled as well, I guess.
Rightfully so. Hayden, your pick.
I think she was number 15 on the PWI top 100 women's wrestlers. Su Yung, and I'm happy that you didn't beat me to the punch on this one.
Yeah, fair enough. You know what? I'll be quite honest with you, Hayden. I don't have her on my list.
Mm-hmm.
That is not taking away from how talented she is. I just think that, to be quite honest with you, like, as far as a presence on the roster, Rosemary covers the bases for me as far as a supernatural talent goes, and as far as just overall talent goes.
Well, Su Yung doesn't have a supernatural gimmick. That's for sure.
She has some sort of weird zombie gimmick.
Really?
I don't know how you want to call it.
I wouldn't call it a zombie gimmick, but yet, everybody has their own interpretation.
I don't really know what I would call it. Undead? Like, that's literally what her associates are. They're called the undead, aren't they?
No, I don't think so.
Either way. I'm
It's
going
a
to
little-
stop talking so I don't sound dumb. But either way, Su Yung.
Yeah, testament to her talent. She's gained notoriety for a couple different reasons, and one of those reasons has been her talent. Young lady who's recently come onto the scene within the past 2 years, and once again, somebody that you can just slot in and count on for great matches.
Yep. I don't disagree there. Like, I can't take away from her talent. I just think that, number one, there are other women that I would rather see on the roster. And number two, I think that Rosemary, like I said it earlier, I think that if we're going to go with some sort of outside gimmick or anything outside of someone, quote unquote, like I said earlier, being the best, Rosemary covers that. I don't need an oversaturation of it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Hayden, to just completely disregard what I just said, somebody else I've got on my list, my first Alberta talent as part of the women's division, current Real Canadian Wrestling Champion, Envy.
Awesome. Great
Yep.
pick.
I think that, again, you mentioned Su Yung, someone who's fairly new to wrestling, at least as far as I've watched her live. Man, she's talented. Like, there's a reason that you earn a championship this early in your career. It's not a lack of talent.
You earn it.
Yeah.
It's like the end of Saving Private Ryan. Poking on his chest saying, earn it.
100%. And Envy's wrestling career has been much like Saving Private Ryan.
I don't know if that's a great comparison.
I really had no other transition from that, so I'm really happy you took that one over. No, I just think that she's one of the most talented wrestlers as far as females go, at the very least in Alberta. And the only reason I say that is because I'm not familiar with a ton of female wrestlers outside of Alberta. But even routinely, like, speaking to women in the wrestling scene and that sort of stuff, her name is consistently brought up as someone that impresses them. I think that her alliance with Pride has been absolutely fantastic. I think that the further this goes, the better she's going to get. And I think that much like the reason that I picked the Millennial Rebels in the tag team division, that she's someone that, you know, a lot of these wrestlers that we're going to bring up are people that could sign with WWE in the next, like, week. You know what I mean? And that isn't to take away from her, but she's someone that you could, I guess, build a division around long term. It's not to take away from her ability, but I don't think she's someone who will sign in the next week with WWE.
Somebody that you can just continue to mold into a great wrestler.
Absolutely. And I think that that'll definitely be the case on that end. So I think that Envy is an absolutely excellent pick on my call, and that's who I'm going with.
But with WWE in mind, I guess that's an okay transition to my pick. For somebody with all the experience in the world, being criminally misused right now, and that's Asuka.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to see her show up, man.
Excellent pick, man. You're using one of your WWE picks on Asuka.
Using my second.
Oh yeah, I guess you used the club.
But even tonight, just not even 2 hours ago, she came out with Naomi, Lana, Carmella, and not even to her own music.
Yeah.
People still went out of their way to start a 15-second chant for her.
Yeah. And
25
that's
seconds.
someone who you and I have talked about her quite often, has been completely underutilized, at least since WrestleMania. Because to be quite honest with you, she was great going up to Mania.
I mean, won the inaugural Women's Royal Rumble match.
Yep.
And
And people are forgetting that by November. And probably
not
earlier.
even a year later. My God.
100%. It's very, very odd to me.
Feels
It's been
like an
brought
eternity.
up. Yep, and it's been brought up more often recently that Naomi won the inaugural WrestleMania Battle Royal than Asuka won the inaugural female Royal Rumble.
Yeah, which one bears more weight? You decide.
Yeah. So there's not a ton of debate, man. If you're going to use a pick on Asuka, Asuka's an excellent pick.
And the thing is like she's doing okay in WWE by all measures. Like she's still rarely taking pins. I mean, I think she's only been pinned thrice or twice now at this point. But
I think more than that, but
she's being misused.
100%. And she's someone.
Talent, and she's been stripped down to nearly nothing.
To this point, I still think, and again, not to take away from anyone, I still think of these female Japanese talents that WWE signed over the last few years, still the most talented to me.
Really?
100%.
It's a ballsy claim.
100%. And you know me, man, like, I love Kairi Sane, I love Io Shirai. Like, it's a ballsy claim, but a claim I'll stand by.
But it's one that you can definitely debate, that's for sure.
100%. Next up for me, the Shimmer Taker, Nicole Matthews.
Really?
Man, I enjoy watching her wrestle.
It's a great gimmick.
I think it's a great nickname, and I think that she is criminally underrated. Maybe not in Canada, but I'd almost even say in Canada. Like, she should be one of the most well-known Canadian female wrestlers in the world. Her appearance in the Mae Young Classic was fantastic, and I think that she is someone that she adds a veteran presence while still being someone that can wrestle for a promotion for the foreseeable future. There's not much else to say about it. I think she is a terrific wrestler, and I would love to see her in any sort of like we talk about Impact, like not competition, but alternative to WWE.
And a woman that I know diddly squat about. So once again, that's something that I'll just take you with face value with.
Check her out. Much like Slater would say.
All right.
There you go.
Like Matthew McConaughey.
No, you are all left, like that contestant on America's Got Talent. So
3 straight X's for you, Spence.
There's 4, Hayden. Your call.
But what? That leaves us with one more pick each? Is that
really?
It? Or no, just one more pick for me. As far as I can remember.
I've got a couple more here.
Oh.
Yep.
Well, yeah, you are the women's wrestling aficionado, that's for sure.
That's me.
But my next pick, Taya Valkyrie, a woman that I know that you're quite high on, and a woman that after our past women's wrestling discussion that I started getting more tuned into, a woman that really does display all the talent in the world. I won't say that she's in the best in the world by any means. It's sort of a similar case to the other women that we've been discussing. but once again, a woman that you can just mold into something special.
Yeah.
And out of all these women that we've talked about, even with Su Yung aside, Rosemary, everybody like that, I think she's got it out of all of these girls.
Really?
Yeah.
I'm not disagreeing that she's
Start
got it. I just think that, like, I always go back to Tessa, but it's always Tessa. Tessa's got it. 100%.
And she does, but and you know, it's not a case of her or her having more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I didn't take Blanchard into account, to be perfect.
You know what, man?
It was more about the young ladies.
Fair enough. It was even pretty cool for me to see today, and it was today. Charlotte Flair was tweeting at Tessa Blanchard about the 4 Horsewomen. And it was all part of the Shayna Baszler, Charlotte Flair, 4 Horsewomen of WWE and MMA thing. But it was pretty cool to see a WWE talent, which wouldn't have even happened 2 or 3 years ago, I'm sure. Just even tweeting at talent from Impact about stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like we said, man, 2018 has been wild. For me, Hayden, it's always going to end with someone from Alberta as far as this one goes. And I know Mike the Ref's going to be happy with this one. I got to pick Rachel Ellering.
It's a great
really,
choice.
really have to, man.
She's class, man. She's class.
She really is. And I think that she's someone that even... We're from Alberta, so we're obviously very, very aware of how good she is. I mean, she trained with Lance Storm. She was obviously a big presence in the PWA and that for the time that she was here. And I don't know if even the world knows what they've got in her yet. She's only appeared on NXT even a limited number of times. And I think she's got a ton of potential. That she hasn't even, as someone as talented as she is, hasn't even begun to eclipse or scratch.
Eclipse.
Like Ember Moon.
I really hate Ember Moon as an aside. I would never have considered her for this list. But yeah, a woman with all the potential in the world. As Tom Petty may say, the sky is the limit.
Well, as he would have said 2 years ago.
Come on.
That one's tough. That was a tough one.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of disappointed with that joke.
Sorry, man. I think we both were.
It's heartbreaking. But,
yeah, I stand by Rachel. I stand by all my picks. I don't think there's anyone there that doesn't have star potential, to be quite honest with you. Whether it be with this potential AEW, whether it be with WWE, whether it be becoming stars of the independent circuit.
Well, you know, NWA, NJPW, Shimmer.
Yep. Tons of routes to go, man. So, Hayden, any other wrestlers that you just wanted to give your honorable mentions to real quick before we take a quick break here?
My last pick was going to be Allie.
Okay.
TNA.
Fair enough.
But I really can't speak on her. She was a list rounder out.
I already picked.
She's like she's like number 12 from the PWI 100.
I think she was. I think Su Yung was 12, to be honest with you.
Who knows?
Either way. The two that I wanted to give specific shout-outs to, Mercedes Martinez, absolutely unbelievable. She's only really someone I saw for the first time, like literally the first time in last year's Mae Young Classic, and man, is she good. And Giselle Shaw, someone else who wrestled in PWA, is really starting to make a name for herself worldwide, and an incredibly talented wrestler. So when we come back from this quick break and a quick word from our friend RJ over at Revisionist Booking, man, I just wanted to apologize again. Sorry for playing the wrong commercial on the last one. I mean it. But
really exhibiting our professionalism, Spencer.
Well, we played a commercial, so we got his name out there.
Yeah.
It's the glass half full scenario here. But when we come back, we're going to discuss the male talent for the potential AEW All Elite Wrestling promotion on this here edition of Over the Top Rope on Win Column Sports. Man, I have so many things I just want to say about AEW, but we'll close this one out. We'll get to our commercial, and we'll talk about all of those things after this break on Over the Top Rope.
Have you ever wanted to book your own wrestling pay-per-view? Well, if you're anything like me, the answer is yes. And boy, do I have a great new podcast for you. The Revisionist Booking podcast heard only on the Visionaries Wrestling Network. Each Wednesday, RJ and Michael Berry Sr. relive, revise, and rebook a wrestling pay-per-view from wrestling's past. So head over to Twitter and follow the show's page at Revisionist Book. Follow Michael Berry Sr. at Michael Berry Sr. And head over to iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, Stitcher, and now Spotify, and subscribe to the Visionaries Wrestling Network. And let the Revisionist Revolution begin.
We are back on Over the Top Rope on Win Column Sports. As always, I will remind you, don't forget to follow Win Column Sports for all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling. And guys, the latest breaking news, or I guess not even really the latest, but some of the biggest breaking news from the world of wrestling is the filing of patents for the names and licensing for promotion and event purposes for All Elite Wrestling. That's what Hayden and I have been here discussing as part of our genuine brother of discussion connection here.
Yeah, just a long, deep, heart-to-heart.
A long storied history.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it.
It's a beautiful thing. And we're talking about AEW, and we're talking about who we would like to see on any potential roster. We listed our rules at the start of the podcast. If you guys want to hear it by this point, go all the way back there and you can hear them. We would appreciate that because we're not listing them again. Hayden, I started off with the women. We are now listing the men that we would like to see in AEW. I will give a quick reminder, 10 men outside of, who do we decide? Excuse me.
So
Cody, the Young Bucks, but they were part of the tag team. Hangman Page, Marty Scurll.
And then, Kenny Omega. But I don't know. We'll include him in this discussion, but I don't know. I think he's going to be leaving the group sooner rather than later.
I agree. I think that eventually you'll see Cody head to WWE, or Kenny, excuse me. I just think that they've been so adamant that they're staying together that you will see them stay together, at least for one more contract. I think if any of them are going to go to WWE first, it would be Kenny, but that's up for debate still.
But even though it is my turn to start off, I'll start somewhere where I know that we have common ground, and that's with a true blue-blooded draft pick in Colin Cassidy, Big Cass.
Yeah, I was joking.
He's not actually on your list?
No, he's absolutely not.
Okay. Well, my number one pick.
Large Cass isn't on the list.
Yeah. The first pick for me was Big Cass, and I feel like this could be a great redemption story for sort of a little lost lamb that lost his way. I think that's a great comparison in this situation.
Who lost his way, much like the Industrial Revolution.
But nobody's looking for him. That's the thing. And I think AEW would be a great promotion. Regain his footing, reestablish a reputation, and serve as a launching off point for a successful return to the WWE.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you said there, Hayden.
You don't sound enthusiastic though.
The wrestlers I've got on here, I would still, I think, take all 10 of them over Large Cass or Big C or whatever he's calling himself. Big Kaz, which I think was still one of my favorite things to come out of the year 2018.
Yeah.
But I just think that the wrestlers I've got on here, I would rather take above him. And whether or not it would be a great redemption story or not for him, maybe it's a redemption story a little later on down the road.
Well, I'd still love to see him, and to each their own. And I'm kind of hurt that you told me that you had him on your list, but then just said that you were kidding.
That's fair. You know what, Hayden? I'll take someone here that I don't think you would have had on your list then. And honestly, I know for a fact you don't have on your list because you already used your 2 WWE picks here. The name that I've got here under the male side for my second WWE pick is Tyler Breeze. Mm-hmm. And I think that he is somebody who is a phenomenally talented wrestler. He is someone who realistically I think could benefit from a run much like Cody has had by leaving WWE for sort of greener pastures. He I will stress this just again. He's an unbelievably talented wrestler. And he could benefit from being one of the bigger names, or even if it's just as a surprise entrance, if you're going to fantasy book a first show, as someone who showed up as a surprise. But I think he's someone who could benefit hugely from something like this. Like, you got to remember, the guy is the first guy to wrestle Jushin Thunder Liger in WWE. He's the only guy. There you go. Thank you, Hayden. Hive mind. I think that he is... Like, I don't think he wrestled for the NXT Championship multiple times. And yeah, a few of them were in multi-man scenarios, but he's an excellent wrestler, and I think he could benefit from something like this, where he would be taken... Not that I'm saying his run with Brazonga wasn't entertaining, it was fantastic, but benefit from being someone taken more seriously.
Absolutely. And the credit to the guy, he's got all the talent in the world. And yeah, realistically, if anybody could benefit from around the outside of the WWE, he'd be in the top picks for that, alongside names like Apollo Crews, Zack Ryder, even to some extent.
Yeah.
Kurt Hawkins as well. But that's and Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins go hand in hand. But that's another
Edgeheads.
Yeah, sort of fantasy sort of thing. They would be a good pick for a tag team to go along with.
Yep.
But Tyler Breeze, he's got the personality of Cody, and Cody's got some talent, but Tyler Breeze is a phenomenal wrestler. So just to see him maybe pop up in AEW, the NWA, Impact even, just to show off his skills, that'd be great.
Absolutely, Hayden. I'm gonna let you continue to take the lead and give me your second pick.
My second pick was Willie Mack. I'm not sure if you had him on your...
No, I didn't. He is in my honorable mentions, but same sort of thing. And even in less of a condescending way to Big Kaz. Like, he is someone that I would love to see there. I just had picks that I would take above him.
Yeah, and at this point, he's the PWG Lucha Underground standby. He hasn't won any world championships, to my knowledge. No, he was in the Battle of Los Angeles. I don't know if he won Battle of Los Angeles. But
don't believe so,
yeah,
but I could be wrong. I'm not up to date on my PWG.
Yeah, Lucha Underground Trios champion, 2-time. But really, like, he's up there with guys like Shane Strickland as being one of the hottest free agents at this point.
Yeah.
Is I don't think he's locked down anywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
And God, if you can lock this guy down, do it.
Yeah.
Like, he had tryouts for NXT, but I think it was heart issues that kept them away from signing him. But the guy's an incredible talent.
Yeah.
Athleticism, power, everything all rolled up into one. Personality to boot.
I think while we're here, that's a good time to add another rule that we failed to mention here. We did say there are a lot of rumors that guys like Walter, ACH, Trevor Lee, that those guys have signed with WWE. Obviously, those guys would be great additions to any promotions. However, we've excluded them from this list just purely based on the fact that, like, there's a lot of sites we trust, but there's only a few sites that will sit and take at their word. And a lot of those sites have stated as such. So we excluded him from this list. However, Willie Mack, we haven't heard anything about. So, yeah, man, get him on there.
I didn't know that rule, so that takes Walter off my list.
You had Walter on your list.
I did.
I'm very sorry about that.
Yeah, that's...
We only briefly chatted about it.
That's one that would always surprise me, though. Because he's a guy that's always talked about never wanting to live in the States and instead just wanting to build up the European wrestling scene.
Yeah.
So I assumed that he was sort of going to spearhead the NXT Germany or the NXT Europe that would come to be after NXT UK.
And I could see him headlining NXT UK, or you don't know how soon they're going to be starting something like that.
The guy's a beast. My God. I'd love to shake hands with that guy.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Someone that may not have been on your list, but someone, again, that I'm getting familiar with more and more and loving that would be great for this roster, Bandito.
Guy that I know nothing about, so explain him.
Man, he is, again, I can't stress enough, and this would be another one that I'd have to give a quick shout out to Sam and Casey and Kate for. They got me really introduced to the guy. Wrestles a lot in AAW. He's a really big independent scene guy. He's another luchador, and he was in that main event at All In. A lot of people, oddly enough, one of the things I remember, a lot of people around us, I remember saying, "Oh, well, that's Neville in a mask." No, that was incorrect. he's just incredibly talented, man. Much in the vein of a Pentagon or a Ray Phoenix. So, lots of matches to check out.
Very cool.
If you want me to find more on him, I can get some matches for you.
We'll see what happens, Spencer. Absolutely.
In the big wide world of wrestling.
But since you mentioned him, Pac, FKA Neville is one of my top choices.
100%. He's on my list as well.
But he's a bit of a reach for me. I think he'd be reticent to move back to the USA, especially just after getting married and settling down in Europe. So, you gotta wonder where that goes.
While I agree with you there, I also think that for him, to be honest with you, I think he could see this as sticking at WWE a bit. And I think he'd like to do that. Just, this is me going purely off what I know about him as a character, so I'm sure he's a great guy. But I just think it'd be fun it's a fun idea in my head to have the former king of the cruiserweights being like, yeah, I'm in because it'd be fun to screw them.
But he's already screwing them if he's wrestling in Europe and in promotions that they haven't really forged a relationship with.
If he's wrestling literally
NJPW.
Anywhere else, he's screwing WWE.
Yeah. He's sticking it to the man.
Yeah.
But who knows what the relationship is? We're just on the outside looking in.
100% speculation, but Pac would be huge. Obviously, he's got contact with the Young Bucks, so I think that he would at least be in conversations for that.
And he's already working with Noah as well, so
Yep.
maybe that leads to him, being a liaison between the two companies, maybe leading to a crossover there, which would be awesome. Noah's finally starting to regain some steam at this point in time.
Which is great, man. It's just, no matter who the promotion is, it's always just nice to see another promotion thriving.
Absolutely.
So, you brought up Pac. I'll bring up someone who I think is equally athletic and brings an equal amount of star power. The most jacked man alive, Billy Gunn.
Well, yeah, Jesus Christ. Is he just a recent pick of yours? I just saw you checking out some bodybuilding.
Dude, the guy is a giant and genuinely, I think much in the same vein as the best friends do. Yeah. I know that's a weird comparison, but hear me out. I think he brings star power in a way that, like, you're always going to see a guy whose nickname was Mr. Ass as a bit of a comedy act, but he's also got a ton of wrestling chops. Like, the guy is not a bad wrestler by any means.
He's
a
great talent.
Yeah, and he adds, to me, he adds a solid veteran presence.
A grizzled old vet.
Grizzled vet Billy Gunn,
sort of like a Gran Torino type.
Like the Clint Eastwood movie?
Well, yeah. But if it wasn't a movie, and if he was a wrestler.
So if, like, the wrestler met Gran Torino, but with a lot less racism.
Yeah.
Pretty well?
Well, probably to suit today's day and age, that's for sure.
Probably.
But yeah, just a great guy. Definitely still using steroids. And
100%.
I don't say that lately.
But if people think I'm joking, like, I think he'd be a huge asset for that promotion.
A huge asset. I wonder if that's a pun, Spencer.
Hey, do you know what? It wasn't intentional, but I also feel like we have to end the conversation at that because, like,
true,
it's a great place to end it.
I gotta agree.
You're up, my man.
He wasn't on my list, but I'm thinking about Justin Gabriel, or the Darewolf, Justin Gabriel. I'm not gonna add him to my list. I just felt the need to express that.
All right.
But a guy that was sort of in the same class as him, and a guy that was number 3 on my list was John Morrison. Or
excellent choice.
Current Impact Wrestling champion, Johnny Impact.
Would he be Johnny All Elite Wrestling? Would he change his name?
That's a mouthful.
Would he change his name again though?
Johnny Awe. I'd probably do Johnny Awe, to be honest.
AU. AEW.
Christ, that's weird.
Right?
Maybe just John.
John Ew.
No, just John.
Either way, that's one of my favorite things about him. It's like, what's Johnny Impact doing here?
Yeah.
Like, he's been John Morrison and Johnny Mundo.
Mm-hmm. And John Morrison. And
did I not say John Morrison first?
You said Johnny Mundo.
Excuse me. Either way.
Nitro. Eminem.
And what a guy. Underrated wrestler. And a guy I didn't have on my list.
Could have been a main eventer in my books.
I don't disagree.
Absolutely, and a guy with his moveset, and I know he takes great care of himself, but he's got a limited time frame, and I wish that he'd go back to WWE. But
And I think he will at some point still.
yeah, but if you're going to spend it anywhere, spend it with the best talent that you can find. And with the fantasy rosters that we're booking, I think that could be the best place to finish out your career.
I don't disagree, man.
Yeah.
No, you know what? And you talk about talent, then there is no one to me more talented in the world and like pure talent as Kota Ibushi. And he's on my list
too.
100% on my list. A guy who could realistically come over, especially considering like the storylines that could be going on. I don't know whether this thing could feasibly be going within a year. That's sort of what I've been basing everything off of. But I think that he would be a huge addition and could feasibly come over. There's not much else to say. There's a lot I could talk about as far as Kota Ibushi, but the best compliment I can give him is he is one of the most talented wrestlers in the world, and he is a star in whatever promotion he chooses to go to, and that's why I think that this would be a great addition for AEW.
The only reason that he's never been a world champion anywhere is because he's never settled down anywhere.
And I think that's so cool, to be honest with you.
Yeah, he just freelances. He does what he wants.
That's why he never won the inaugural Cruiserweight Classic, because from what I've heard, he was penciled in to win it had he signed.
Yep. He and Zack Sabre Jr. were supposed to finish out the tournament, but they never signed. And I think it was a great boon for ZSJ. Like, he's not to say that he wouldn't fit in WWE, but he would be misused.
I agree.
In my
the guy's a phenomenal technical wrestler, and that's not always used correctly.
And he doesn't really fit in with the current NXT products, nor the Raw or
you
the
saw
SmackDown
and
product.
you saw what happened with like even a guy like Malenko.
Yeah.
Like you talk about the guy, and I don't say this lightly. Like Zack Sabre Jr. may be the most talented grappler, I guess is the best way to put it, but the best mat-based wrestler on the independent scene, if not in the world today, to be honest with you.
The guy's a madman.
The guy's incredible. So that's where I agree with you in the fact that he may not fit in just because he is that good at stuff that like everyone appreciates, but not everyone loves watching on a live product. You know what I mean?
Biggest thing is like is he could have a hell of a match with guys like Daniel Bryan, Andrade Almas, Styles, guys in that same vein.
Yep.
But I've never seen Sabre Jr. move away from that style. And guys like Bryan can wrestle completely different styles. They can change it in the snap of the finger.
Fair enough.
But his matches have always been really focused on this sort of technical wizardry style.
Yeah.
And it's great for his character, but it's not great for him if he wants to go to an entertainment-based company. At least in my books.
Makes sense, man. It's your pick, isn't it? Or is it mine? I have 5 left, so it depends how many you've got left.
Well, we both said Ibushi.
Right?
Sabre Jr. wasn't on my list.
He wasn't on mine either, unfortunately. That's because he was with Suzuki Gun, my one revision from earlier in the show.
Yeah, but I guess I can sort of flip over to another guy that's been featured.
You just pick it up.
Yeah, another guy that's sort of in New Japan as of late, and that's Will Ospreay.
Don't have him on my list.
Yeah, we haven't heard from him. And,
man, is he great. Yeah. He's been battling injuries lately from what it seems like his Twitter account, and he is saying.
Yeah, neck issues supposedly. And he's always tried to justify his wrestling style by saying that he was going to retire at age 29 and then just teach wrestling.
Yeah.
But that is so friggin' dumb.
You
see what happens to that guy that just wrestles balls to the wall every single night, like Dynamite Kid.
I was just going to say the best the best comparison I have heard about him is, I don't know if it was on a talk as Jericho, to be honest with you, but I know Jericho said it. Is he was quoted as saying he told Zack Sabre Jr. that he shouldn't want to be the next Dynamite Kid, and I completely agree with that. And that's not taking anything away from how great his matches are, because man, I can't deny I enjoy the style he wrestles, but there's also a way to wrestle an enjoyable and incredible style while still not hurting yourself.
And there's something to be said about wrestling, to your greatest capacity every night. You have to respect the principle. But but it's horrible on your body. It takes such a huge toll. And the guy's only like 24 years old, 25 years old, and he's a great talent. Whatever you want to say about him, having over choreographed matches with guys like Ricochet. But man, if you want to see this guy flush his life down the tube in slow motion over the course of the next like 5-6 years,
Yeah.
it's something I don't want to see. Maybe he tones it down. Maybe he's a special attraction.
I agree, man. That's the biggest thing for him is like fans take for granted sometimes the fact that wrestling takes careers away, and sometimes they don't even realize it until something like a Page retirement or Edge retirement or even the Daniel Bryan retirement when it happened.
Oh,
Right? Like
wrestling takes lives away.
100%, but people never really seem to realize the fact until after the fact. But I really hope that doesn't happen with him.
And that makes two of us.
So you've got Osprey. I'll go with another New Japan staple, Kazuchika Okada.
Say that's a lofty pick. I
think it's a lofty pick, but I don't know. Since he's lost his championship, I feel like he's on a bit of a, I don't know if it's his character, but he's in a bit of a slump.
Well, that's sort of the whole point. Is he's just had absolutely it's over the line. He's had just absolutely ridiculous storylines where he's bringing.
That's 100% over the line, ladies and gentlemen. Just to interrupt here, we are watching the Edmonton Oilers versus Dallas Stars game right now. We're recording on November 27th, and the Edmonton Oilers have just scored 1 minute and 15 seconds into overtime. And if this call isn't reversed,
It'll
man,
make me mad.
I will be very, very upset. Captain Connor, we love you. Sorry, to go back to Okada.
But like he's bringing balloons out to the ring and like handing them out to children on his way down. He's screaming Scooby Dooby Doo when he's jumping off of the top rope. And yeah, I guess to your merit, he doesn't have the championship anymore. So I could bring him up for other appearances, but he is still the ace of New Japan at this point.
I don't disagree that the guy's a phenomenal wrestler. I just think that if there's ever going to be a time he's convinced to leave, it's going to be right now when when he is being booked in the worst slump. Wow, this is absolutely ridiculous. That was not a goal, and I am very, very upset about the refereeing quality in the National Hockey League at this point, and especially in relation to the Edmonton Oilers.
I'm upset. I'm angry, and I'm disappointed.
This is discourteous to everything I stand for as a human being.
I'm not the biggest hockey fan in the world, but it is clearly over the line. It's foolish.
I'm very upset.
I can't believe that.
Again, to reference the Big Lebowski, over the line. Okada, man, let's just move on so I can forget about this. Okada's the man. I hope he signs, whether it's lofty or not. I hope he signs. Hayden, your next pick.
A guy that only recently returned to wrestling after a long hiatus, and that man is Ken Shamrock.
Really?
Yeah.
That's another excellent pick, Hayden.
Don't tell me that you wouldn't like to see him
show
up in AEW. And
dude, and I'm 100% serious. I would absolutely love to see that.
Oh, man, I was going to say Dan Severn, but he's retired as hell.
Yeah. And I think that just to be honest with you, like Shamrock's just better.
Yeah?
I think
Dan
so.
Severn is something else, man. He's an NWA heavyweight champion.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed Ken Shamrock when he was around. I think that the fact that being the first for anything really influences anything. Excuse me for me. And him being the first real MMA WWE crossover it was so cool for me.
Yeah.
So,
and he had a different type of charisma. He
Yep.
still does.
Excellent.
The guy's a monster.
Yep. Shamrock, while not on my list, I agree with. Someone else who's a monster in a different way that I will just move on to. Joey Janela. Bad boy Joey Janela.
Number 9 on my list.
The guy is excellent.
Yeah, one of your personal favorites, and also a product of your trip to All In.
Of
Right?
my All-In experience, 100%. Now, I was lucky enough, he was a guy that I'd heard about prior to All-In, so, you sort of binge watch a wrestler when you're going to see him live for the first time.
Yeah.
And I just watched as much as I could, but seeing a guy like that live for the first time was so cool, and especially in the match that he had with Hangman Page, I think that a lot of wrestlers on All In have a very good chance of being. I'm certain most of them will be contacted. I think a lot of them have a good chance, if this promotion goes on, to sign with this promotion. And I'm just going to carry it on right now to move on from Janela, just to say that I think that Joey Ryan would be a big part of it as well.
I considered him, but I ultimately decided against him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he has the chops to like he's a good wrestler and he's a good personality, but it's just weird. You know
And
what
the
I mean?
thing is,
he's not a favorite of mine, and I guess that weighs heavily into it. But there are just other guys I like to see before him, and I'll bring up my next pick after you explain why you'd want him on the roster.
a couple reasons. Number one, I think that he's underrated. I think that Oilers just won. Nicely done, Oscar Klefbom and Leon Draisaitl. Big point for Spencer Love and his fantasy hockey pool. I think that, number one, Joey Janela is an underrated wrestler, and I think that he's underappreciated because, yeah, he does have the comedy aspect to him and a lot of, like, dick humor. There's no other way to put it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's underrated. And number two, I think that of anybody on this promotion outside of the guys in the elite, he's proven more so than all of these wrestlers that he can carry a consistent storyline. You know, he's one of the only guys who has gone through something as far as even being the elite or through a wrestling promotion. Anything like that, he is a guy who's proven he can carry on a consistent, 3 to 6 month storyline. And he did that with Hangman Page heading into All In.
Yeah, and with Dick Druids, which, to me is just the height of idiocy, but man, whatever, teach their own.
Hey,
I understand your point, I just don't.
That's completely fair.
Yeah,
and I understand why it would. Trust me, I understand why it wouldn't be everyone's flavor. But I also think that even if you were to try and tailor that a little bit and tone it down a bit for a television program or anything like that, it could be successful. Mm-hmm. Hayden, I've got 2 left, and I wanted to know, would you like the biggest name, in my opinion, or would you like my local connection?
Local connection, then biggest name, but it is my pick, isn't it?
Yep, excuse me, you're right, we did, we agreed. Or we were just, no, it is your pick because I said Joey Ryan.
And, we both said Joey Janela, so that just leaves me with 2 more as well.
Cool.
And, my sort of local connection, but also a former WCW World Heavyweight Champion, is David Arquette.
I don't disagree with you. I will justify that early because I don't mean to sound overly critical with it, but I wouldn't pick him just because I wouldn't think he'd put on the most entertaining wrestling match for me. I understand fully why you would bring a guy like that in because he would add, number one, a ton of star power. Number two, the guy is good in the wrestling ring. I think he's getting a lot of unnecessary flack recently for this death match that he took part in. I think, number one, he didn't know what he got into. And actually, one of the things that I saw that made a lot of sense to me and really I agreed with was Shane Helms, Hurricane Helms. He said that a lot of the responsibility for a match like that has to go to the guy who books it. Because if you're going to book David Arquette in a death match, you have to know that he's capable of being in a death match.
That's true.
And that is, for me, yes, David Arquette's at fault because there's no way that you looked up death match, or excuse me, you didn't look up death match on at least YouTube before you got into it and saw what happened.
There's no way that you've been in the wrestling business for 20 years and you don't know what a death match
There's
is.
no way you're unaware, but at the same time, do you really understand the risks that go into it? I don't think you fully can. So I think that that's a bit of a 50-50 split, but the guy he's a trained wrestler.
True. Whether
or not people think he's an excellent wrestler or not, that's up for debate, but you're starting a new promotion, that adds an instant splash.
He's seen the highs and the lows of the business, that's for sure.
I don't disagree. He's literally been at the highest of the low point of the business.
Yeah, in your books. But on to you. The buck is passed.
I think that it is hard for me not to put God's gift to wrestling, Michael Richard Blaze. Anywhere but at the top of my list for something like this. He is fully deserving of an opportunity to get a name. maybe even if he's not as well known as some of the names on this list, he is a guy who's, I will fully say, as talented as most of the guys on this list, if not all the guys on this list.
True.
And a guy who he would succeed if given a platform like this, 100%. And I think that much like a lot of the wrestlers we've talked about, maybe you use him as more of a long-term option. He's someone who comes in and maybe he's more of a long-term project. But how you can sit and say that this guy isn't talented enough to be there, I've watched him wrestle Cody before. Cody's sang his praises before. And I just think that the guy makes too much sense not to be in something like this.
He's a great pick. I gotta agree. He's generally considered to be the best wrestler in Western Canada right now, and
If not all of Canada.
well, yeah, it's easy to see why.
100% Hayden.
He's a fantastic wrestler, and I gotta agree with you on the fact that he would need to spend a little bit of time in developmental, but that just speaks to the fact that he's young, and he just has so many years to add onto his resume, and I for one, I'm definitely excited to see where he ends up in the future.
100%, man. Now, Hayden, I think I'm just going to go ahead and give this one a cold shot. I think I know who your last pick is.
Who's
I
that?
think you know who my last pick is. You talk about God's gift to wrestling, Michael Richard Blaze. Let's just talk about like God's gift to the world. Chris Jericho was my last pick.
He wasn't my pick. I thought he was exempt.
Really?
Yeah, I thought he was exempt.
He's not part of the elite. He is someone that could feasibly go there.
He's a free agent.
He's a complete free agent.
I was gonna say Rob Van Dam.
RVD, excellent choice too.
Yeah, but yeah, two great choices. Let's talk about Jericho first, though.
Man, he makes too much sense to me. He's been linked to a promotion like this prior. AEW did register out of the Jacksonville address that he used for the Jacksonville Jaguars, which were I can't pronounce the owner's name. I apologize, but he'd been rumored to. Yeah, thank you. He'd been rumored to be attached to a promotion like this in the weeks preceding this announcement.
He's a huge wrestling fan.
His son's a huge wrestling fan.
Yeah, he's a billionaire.
Yep. And JR, good old Jim Ross, and Chris Jericho were rumored to be tied to the promotion. So, again, maybe a bit of a stretch or maybe a bit of a fantasy booking, but I have no reason to believe he wouldn't show up at least for a show. Excuse me.
Gesundheit.
Thank you. I think that Jericho adds instant star power more so than anybody we've mentioned in this podcast so far. I think that he's someone who could feasibly show up, even more so, honestly, than someone like Rob Van Dam. And I think he'd do it just because it would make a splash.
Yeah, and he's the type of guy that's going to be out there to lend a helping hand to these guys, if anybody. I mean, he's the current IWGP Intercontinental Champion, and he won that title, I think, less than 3 months after being the WWE US Champion.
Yep.
I mean, that describes his crossover appeal to a T. If you want to talk about one of the hottest things in wrestling, if not still just the hottest thing in wrestling, it's still Chris Jericho.
There's a reason I consider the guy the GOAT, Hayden.
Yeah. And it's almost unanimous at this point.
Now, Hayden, I want you to give your thoughts on Rob Van Dam, and I'll be quite honest with you, Hayden. I think that that'll probably wrap up this week's edition of OTTR. So when you were done with your thoughts on Rob Van Dam, take us out and tell us where to find you on the old internet machine.
What can you say about Rob Van Dam aside from the guy that he's a living legend, one of the best in history? And he's got some longevity to his career. He's wrestled everybody from the early days of ECW up to Neville and NXT a few years back, and his quality hasn't stepped down. But he's really been the ultimate free agent these past few years, doing things on his own terms. Like, he hasn't even wrestled independently, I think, consistently since like 2014 or 2013.
Yeah.
Like, he wrestles like 4 times a year, if that. But I wouldn't want to see him go back to WWE because I think their rosters are overcrowded as is. Like, hell, we've been talking about the exodus of some people from their rosters tonight.
Yep.
But I think he would slot in perfectly in AEW. just sort of a grizzled old veteran sort of type, maybe in the same vein as Tim Storm in NWA,
Oh man.
except a much more talented Tim Storm. Maybe a less emotional and more high Tim Storm.
Could be all of those things.
But yeah, I mean, either way, I think both of our picks were great as far as our final picks go. And yeah, I thought this was a very constructive discussion, Spencer.
I completely agree, man, and I thoroughly enjoyed it with you. If AEW does turn out to be a thing, I think even if we were to get half of the members, half of the people that we named onto the roster of AEW, or even if they were to make appearances, I would be very, very excited. I think that this could be a huge, huge thing for independent wrestling as a whole. And if it comes around, man, I say support your local independent wrestling, but this is something that you definitely have to support as well, I would think.
Yeah.
So,
And they're making it very easy to support if they just use our rosters.
I completely agree. Cody, if you're listening, please just use our rosters. Matt and Nick, same sort of thing goes for you guys. Once again, guys, Hayden, I want to thank you first and foremost for appearing on the show. Hayden can be found on the old Twitter machine at HLoveMillionaire with no E, because that's not only his screen name, but that's great life advice.
Just no we.
There's just no E. You have been listening to Over the Top Rope on the Win Column Sports Network, the flagship show of the Win Column Sports Network. Don't forget you can follow Win Column Sports for all your previews, reviews, and breaking news from the world of wrestling. And not only from Over the Top Rope, but you can check out our sister/brother podcasts, the proverbial shield of the Win Column Sports Network. Ourselves, Brian the Guy, the Is It Over Yet podcast. I would highly suggest listening to all of them. And once again, I have been your host, Spencer Love, with my co-host, Hayden Love, the brothers of discussion, on this episode of Over the Top Rope.